Hey, 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 I'm Michelle.
And I'm Greta.
We are girlfriends who have always been seekers. We love learning, sharing, and most of all, we love having those soul-to-soul moments with our girlfriends.
Our podcast is about spiritual connection and sisterhood. You are not alone. So grab your glass, get comfy, and join us as we make some noise, light up the room, and
Get into it.
So Michelle and I were just talking about all the fun things we have to do as we get older. Like I just had my annual physical.
Wellness check. Is that what they call these now?
Yeah, I mean,
Something like that.
Wellness check. Well, that's what they call it for little kids. So I think it's a physical for adults, but
A well
yes,
physical.
I'll feel young. Call it my well visit. And I found out a whole list of shit I have to do now that I'm 45. So that was fun. Colonoscopy. I got to get a mammogram again. I'd prefer to have ultrasound over that, but I just found out it's not a thing.
I didn't even know that was an option.
I know. One of my friends told me it was. Maybe she has better insurance than I do. I don't know.
That's why we got to talk, though, right? That's why we got to share this information because
Yes.
what you don't know, you don't know. You can't even
Right.
ask for those things. So
Exactly.
thanks for bringing that up.
Well, I know. And then after that, I was talking to some other friends just about all the hormonal shit that's going on. And we were saying it would be amazing to have a group of women in our area that just got together and shared information like that.
Yeah.
Like just talked about what they've learned. And, you know, I went to this homeopathic doctor and they helped me with this because it doesn't even, sometimes you can just go through your insurance and your regular medical doctors and you don't really get the answers that you're looking for.
Mhm.
I mean, I know I've been on this journey for the last couple of years, just trying to figure out more holistic ways to kind of combat all these changes that are going on in my body. I'm
down to start a circle like that.
Yeah.
Like I'm always up for that kind of chatter. And I do think that the more we share what's happening with all of us, that, yeah, we can share resources because I'm huge on the whole holistic path. For me, I don't feel that there's any other way. I still see my doctor, but I've also been talking to like MIDI Health. Have you ever heard of them?
It sounds vaguely familiar.
Okay.
No.
I just asked because a friend of ours actually is the one that talked about it. And I'm like, ooh, what's that? And she goes, well, it's all online. You get to connect with female practitioners. Most of them are physician's assistants, but it's all about female health. It's really cool because I use them as like a supplement to my regular doctor, in addition to everybody else that I see, because I feel like I do have a whole team right now.
Yeah, you're good about going. You get your acupuncture done. You do a lot that is not in the standard medical.
Yeah. But you know, I think, Greta, that is one reason why right now I'm tired AF. And so that's the one issue that I really need to focus on this year is like, why am I so tired? And I have been starting to pull in the resources, but I don't get sick very often. Like it's very rare. And part of that could be somewhat genetic, but I do think it's a lot of my lifestyle. And I say that also acknowledging that there are some things out of my control. You know, like I've got to wake up at a certain time to get kids to school. Most of my clients that I see need to come in at a certain time, stuff like that. But I can choose some things that I can carve into my day. And I think that's a big part of what we need to talk about is we do have this societal pressure about all the shit we have to do. But where can we find those moments where we can carve out that time to take care of ourselves? You were just talking about the colonoscopy. Girl, they told me, I don't know, early in the year I was supposed to do that. Well, it's October right now and I'm just about to go in. So I put shit off,
Which
it happens.
I was like, just get the Cologuard sent to you. Like, that part doesn't sound fun either, but it sounds way better than the colonoscopy.
No.
But
I'm getting the camera at my ass. That's what I'm opting to do. And part of that is because my grandfather died of colon cancer and nobody else, fortunately, knock knock in the family has had it. But I figure if there is some lineage in that, you know, I need to do all the things, you know?
Yeah, you're going to bend over and take it in the ass.
I'm totally going to do that. Don't tell my husband. Shh. Although he's the one picking me up. So I'm like, Maybe I should have somebody else do it. Because, I picked him up from his, and I've actually picked up a girlfriend of mine. And it is kind of funny, like when people come out of those, they're all kind of loopy. But what I hear is that you don't really remember anything. Like in terms of, there's not like in our minds, I think we build up this like horrific scenario. And it's really not that bad. Mm-hmm. People say the day before is worse because now they have pills. Like you don't have to drink this juice that they used to give you. And then like it cleanses you out. So you got to poop all day.
Oh, that sounds
and that's the part I think most people dread is like the day before. Once you've had it, I think when you haven't had it, you worry about the camera up your ass. But once you've had it, then you're like, no, it's really that drink or the pills.
Being on the toilet all day the day before.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I had to really be mindful of that because I started booking clients and I'm all, I don't think I can do this.
Yeah.
This is not good. And the mammogram thing, you mentioned that too. So thank you, because that is on my list. So I thought once I get the colonoscopy, then I'll get the mammo. And you know what? I have to say, I just talked to a friend the other day who did get a mammogram, and guess what? The mammogram didn't show anything last year, but she did a self-examination and she found a lump, and it turned out to be stage 3 breast cancer. That is the other reason why I think all the alternative stuff is so good, because we can't just rely on technologies to find everything. We really have to be these little investigators ourselves.
Your own self-advocating.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the messages, I don't know why we kind of chose to talk about this a little bit, is to really empower you and for us to really have those conversations where it's like, oh, I didn't think about that,
I know. I really enjoyed that part of our conversation with Christy in our last episode where she talked about, your body better than anyone. And I think so many women are just exhausted and run ragged from running a household, working a 9 to 5, making sure kids are where they need to be and fed and healthy and make all their appointments, that we get a little disconnected from our bodies.
For sure.
I know for me, I will feel like you were saying you felt a little tired. That's your body trying to let you know something's up. And I'm not saying it's something major, but like it could be a vitamin deficiency. It could be your estrogen being a little high or something. I don't know. I'm learning about all that stuff now too, like what the effect that hormones have on our bodies.
Okay, so I love that you're saying this because I was at the acupuncturist the other day and she was checking my pulse. And she's like, where are you in your menstrual cycle? And she said, I also think that your body right now is fighting something. Go home, take an Epsom salt bath, load up on this, and gave me some herbs to take.
Magnesium is in the Epsom salt, and your skin can absorb it. It's
totally
really great nutrients.
I just found out that some people, not many, but myself, when I take magnesium orally, I'll take it at night. In the morning, I'll wake up kind of groggy.
Oh.
I know, it's so weird. And I'm like, why is this happening? But if I take it topically, then it doesn't happen. So these are all those things that we don't always know until we try something or you talk to somebody that's kind of outside of the typical medical model.
I've been seeing a functional medicine practitioner that we actually had on our podcast, and I've learned a lot. And at times you do feel like a little bit of a guinea pig, but I think that's part of the process is like everybody is so unique and different in the way that they can even take in vitamins and minerals. If it didn't work in a capsule, then you got to try it a different way. So it's maybe you need liquid form, maybe you need to take the Epsom salt bath. We're just all so beautifully and also confusingly unique.
But that speaks, and that speaks to what you were just saying about kind of just really getting to know your body. And so I think it does suck sometimes when you're feeling guinea pig-ish, but that is the process of really getting in touch with how well do I know my anatomy? How well do I know what something really feels like when I eat it? Do I have to step back and go, okay, let me take a moment to really, where does this settle in? If I'm just on the move and I'm not paying attention, sometimes it's basic stuff like that. I don't know if you ever heard of muscle testing. That's really interesting too. There's a lot of acupuncturists that do this. There may be sensitivities in the body. And so what they'll do is put something in your hand and take your other arm and try to push it down. And depending on what your arm does, whether it resists it or not, it'll actually give it's a biofeedback mechanism, but it'll give messages to say whether that's good for your body or not. But that is really going so in tune.
Yeah.
And you can there's ways you can do it yourself.
Oh,
but
wow.
these are the things that I think when we talk about holistic practices, you get to learn so much more than just, okay, go take the blood test. Here's what this is saying. But then what day did I take the blood test? Like what was going on during that time? Is that truly a full picture of my entire life?
Especially for us women, because we do have, our cycle is constantly changing. And the men have the 24-hour cycle. And then our hormones are going up and down throughout the entire day. It's so much harder for them to really pin down what's going on with us. But I did this test where I peed on a little stick throughout the day, and that helped my functional medicine practitioner know where my levels were at throughout the day.
Yeah.
That's all information that is so useful. And it makes me fucking pissed that everyone doesn't have access to this kind of stuff, especially when you start going through perimenopause. It's like, we need answers. Look at the technology and everything that we as a human species have created at this point. In 2024, really, we haven't figured out women's hormones yet? Like, come on. It's not a priority.
Right.
And that's how I'm feeling right now at this age, going through this. I'm like, why do I feel like I have to invent the wheel right now?
I know.
My mom should have already known all this about her body, and it should have been information that was passed down. And
so I was listening to another podcast kind of about this same thing, and they just talked about how long it takes the medical field to really make a change. So information starts to cycle down, but by the time it gets dispersed to everyone, like we're talking, I know it seems like it would be so rapid, but
I just feel like, why is this functional medicine practitioner, why is that not an option for me? Because my general doctor told me you're in range, just like you were saying with the blood tests. And it's like, it's just, I was in range, but it was low. And if something else is low also, and what is that affecting? And what is that showing? I eat really healthy.
Right.
I eat mostly vegetables and meat and drink only on the weekends. Try to.
I'm
pretty
most of the time
freaking healthy. Probably alcohol is one cup of coffee in the morning. Like, come on. I think I'm doing okay. Yeah. But she was able to find that my body wasn't absorbing the vitamins and minerals from the food. So I needed digestive enzymes.
That is what's key, is when we look at things basic like that, going, wait, I'm eating well, I'm doing these things. Why is there still a problem? That's just it, though. It's like there's stuff that's deeper that a lot of our practitioners are not either educated on, or they don't have time because, again, the medical model is like in and out. I'm not saying that it has changed a bit. I will actually give props. I think I've even given her props on a previous podcast, but my main practitioner, as much as sometimes I do feel like there is a little bit of the pushing of pills and things like that, she takes a lot of time to talk to me. And anytime I come to her with like, oh, I just went to the acupuncturist and this is kind of what they said, she receives it. She makes a note. We have a whole dialogue about it. And so I think we're moving into a place where this is starting to become a little bit more accepted and integrated. So this integrative medicine model, I feel like it's happening. It's happening. I wish we were already there.
I know. I like that your general doctor is actually not just shutting off. I know mine is too, not just shutting off the information now from outside sources. There is some acceptance and respect now given to these alternative medicine practitioners. And I love that, because that was not always the case. I mean, I remember kind of trying to have these discussions and it being really
it's like, this is my lane, that's their lane. We don't intersect anywhere. We're talking about apples and oranges, you know?
Yes, but it's like, we don't have to just choose Western medicine or Eastern medicine. Like, I think they're best when they come together.
It's the integrative approach is really what it is. Right. If we're talking about apples and oranges, they're all fruit. It's still part of the larger holism for ourselves of what we're trying to do. But I will encourage people, whatever insurance you have, check it out and ask some questions, because mine, for example, I now get acupuncture covered. I now get chiropractic work covered.
That's amazing, because even with my husband's back injury, we could not get acupuncture covered. And we have a PPO and pay a shit ton of money. So,
but ask, because you never know, because I have a PPO also, but even when I had an HMO, I had to get referred, but still I had access to that and it was all covered. Again, every insurance is totally different, and that's a whole conversation.
Right. I don't want to talk about insurance.
Yeah. No. I don't either. My husband works in insurance, and it's like, but I mean, I do love on the side hearing about it, because there are some cool things that play into all this that are good to know.
Yeah.
Because when I say that I think things are changing, I for real do feel like there are things happening behind the scenes that we may not all know about that are trying to make just the healthcare world in general a more user-friendly place. Because that's the other piece, is when we start going outside of networks and things like that, a lot of times that information starts to get lost. So now the goal is to start integrating even all of our medical records into one space, so that this doctor can see what this, this other practitioner over here told you or suggested. So I think we're moving towards an integrative place on a whole.
Yeah.
But we still are in that position where we have to be advocates for ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, our biggest thing
message
here. Yeah.
Yeah. Just notice those little ways in which your body is speaking to you.
Yeah. And if you remember too, in Christy's talk, she also mentioned in going through her cancer journey, bringing someone along the way with her to take notes or just be another ear, or even think about questions that maybe she didn't think about. So I think as we're not meant to go through anything alone. We always say that you're not alone. You shouldn't be alone. All of this stuff. And again, we go back to this all the time, but years ago when women would circle up and get together and you would talk amongst each other most of the time. Oprah also had a really good talk that came out. I get her little insider messages. So I saw this talk where they actually had an OB on, and she talked about the shame that women feel when they do start having the real, open, honest conversations about what's going on with them. And I think you and I are pretty unique in that we're very open.
Yeah.
And we talk to each other. We talk to our friends.
Talk about our bladder issues and
to the public, because we're recording and out there.
Periods and not wanting to have sex and all the hormonal stuff.
So many things
happens.
But they
hair loss.
Right? Yes. Hair loss, eye loss. Weight gain. Like there's
the
so
weight
many
gain.
It's a body composition that changes. Like,
yeah, my mom said everything just slows down. I was talking to her about it. And then I was talking to my doctor when I had the physical done, and he was saying, yeah, it's cortisol. Anything you eat just converts to sugar. And then I was thinking about what he said and like why that would be. And I was like, oh, that's very primal. Obviously, like if I'm under stress, I'm thinking like I need to convert this food to sugar because then it will be stored as fat. And then I can hibernate, or if there's no food anymore. It's like very primal for our bodies to do that. But the stress isn't that I'm not going to have food or that I'm running from an animal. Yes. It's that I have to pay my bills. I have to think about what's for dinner. I have to get my house clean. Like there's just a lot on our plates.
It's not the saber-toothed tiger that's coming in to like kill us, you know. But you know what? I actually was listening to something else, a talk from a woman who is very well known in the yoga community, and we were talking. It was like I was having my own private conversation with her, which I was not, but I wish maybe one day she'll be on this podcast.
Ooh.
But she was talking about, anyway, and I'm not going to go into depth about yoga, although I can talk about it for a really long time. But the whole philosophy of yoga is not just about poses. Part of the discussion was, well, how come we strive when we think about yoga in the West is that we want these athletic bodies, right? Like we're really trying to build
lean and
flexibility, all those things.
Wear the little Lululemon, which
we both have, I'm sure, but
we do. But oh my God, it cuts into me lately. I'm like, nope, that doesn't make me feel good. I don't want to wear that anymore.
Okay. And so kind of in that same light, it was really interesting because she talked about how there's this movie. I don't know if anyone has seen it. It's very old, but it's called The Gods Must Be Crazy. And if you look at the bodies of this like indigenous culture, they're all really thin, but their bellies are protruding. And
it sounds familiar. I feel like that's me.
please, girl. But I hear ya. I get it.
Oh, the belly. I'm like, what? Hi, nice to meet you. Where did you come from?
Thanks for leading the way.
Go away now. Go back to where you came from. We don't want none.
Well, but I want to offer you this because here's what she was saying. She's like, do you know though, listen, beyond the subcutaneous layer, which is known as fat.
That's a big word. I need to look up. Okay.
Beyond that, we all have 6-pack. It's actually more like 12 and even more abs. But the harder our abs become, the harder it is on digestion. And so when we were actually designed, it was not to get rid of all that fat there, which goes back to what you were talking about with why sugar converts the way it does and looking at it from a primal perspective, because a soft belly allows for more nutrients, expansion. Yes. So when you think about the yoga breath or just that belly breathing for calming our nervous systems down or regulating, all of that was set in a way so that we can rest and digest. And as we get older, those are things that don't function as optimally. So the more that we can focus on that part of our bodies and how they were truly designed. I mean, I'm not telling y'all not to work on those abs, okay? Like that's not my message, but I want you to know that there is a deeper reason in how and why we're built the way that we are.
And you know what I love about yoga? And it kind of complements what you're saying, I think.
Thought you were going to say, you know what I love about you?
Everything. Every fucking thing.
I love you too.
I love you.
I was like, oh, she said yoga. Shit. Sorry. I was waiting for it. I was ready to receive. What do you love about yoga?
I love that it is about reconnecting you to your body. I think that's what drew me to yoga in the first place. It's not this harsh workout. It's a form of loving yourself. And just when you were talking about digestion and allowing your body to function the way it's supposed to function and exhaling deeply and allowing your stomach to fill up, that's a form of love, self-love.
You just touched on something so big and great. Yes. And that is where we have detached from that.
We've detached from so much.
And this is why a lot of times women are so reserved in even asking the questions because they love deeply and they're taking care of so many others that we tend to not focus on our self-love and our self-care. And that is so crucial for this whole conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's a starting point for some of you listening is I'm just going to do a little 7-minute yoga thing on YouTube. That's how I started. You know, then I found a few more and I'm just not big on like going to classes and stuff, but I probably should. I think I would do more. I just talked to somebody that said going to the gym has actually been so like a community for them. And I'm like, okay, maybe I need to open my mind up a little bit to that notion. But for me, it's like, that's just easy. I can just start by, you know, just putting that on.
Yeah.
And feeling a little bit of a connection. And maybe it starts there. And then maybe you look at your food and what you're putting in your body a little bit differently. And it's just this snowball effect that starts.
Yeah.
This snowball effect of self-love and nurturing.
When you look at everything from that lens, then it changes everything that you're doing. Because if we look at everything as a chore, and I've had to do this with just cooking. Okay. You know, I do not like cooking. It is dreadful to me and I don't love it. It takes every ounce of my body to get in that kitchen and chop up whatever, onions, I don't care what it is, tomatoes. But I've had to really re-look at that because now that I've had more time, you know, offered up with my kids being a little older and I can really get into that. When I think about what I'm actually doing, like, why am I cooking this? Because I love and I care about myself. I love and care about my children and my husband. And how can I provide them with the most basic, outside of like the hug and that kind of physical love, nourishment is through food.
Absolutely.
We're talking basic survival, like that is survival stuff, right?
I've always felt like health and nutrition is the number one thing that you can do for teach your children and provide to your family. And I mean, I'm not saying it's all on the woman, but we do just innately have this sense of, something's not right. There is something in us that wants to provide in that way for our kids and our husband. I look at my husband. He has a really stressful job. I want to give him that nourishment. And I want him to be around for a long time. And, I can't control what he's eating when he's at work and stuff. When he is home, I want to make sure he gets that nutritious meal. And I do like cooking, so I feel like that's a little, I don't like cleaning. I've had to reframe my thoughts around that. Okay, when I'm doing the dishes, just be more present, enjoy the little things, or put on a podcast and listen to that while I'm cleaning. And then all of a sudden it's done. And there's just like little things that we can do. But I've heard that people are not cooking anymore. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's massive. Like people, especially now that there's DoorDash. And I've even been guilty of that too. We've definitely ordered a little too much DoorDash lately because it's so freaking easy.
Yep.
Again, that's another way to get connected.
Yep, exactly.
Get back to the basics.
It is. And I love that you brought that up, the DoorDash thing, because everything, again, is, we're just moving at such a fast pace. And, it's interesting. This morning I was thinking a little bit, and I don't always do that in the morning. Sometimes I'm just doing, not actually thinking. But I was thinking about some things because I was thinking about the busyness of life and how I am in this transitional phase where things are slowing down for me. And I remember living next to a woman who had 4 kids. And I asked her, how do you manage everybody's schedule? You have such a busy life. And my kids were very little at the time, and they were just starting to get into not even sports that like mattered. It was like fun stuff, right? But there were 3 and everybody had different things going on, and she had 4. So I'm like, how do you do that? And she goes, listen, in our house, we allow each kid to pick one thing. Like, that's it. They can't be involved in 3 sports. They can't be involved in, 50 different things. I often remind myself that because I do know I get caught up sometimes where I talk to people who have their kids involved in 50 things. And I'm not, again, here to tell you that you're wrong for doing that. But when I look at my life and what's even happened to my family dynamic, we don't eat dinner together ever. Ever. So I might cook food, but like we're not sitting at the table together eating that. And my mom used to get so mad at me over this. And I'm just like, Mom, you don't understand. We're very, very busy. We're very busy. And you know what? Now that like my girls are in high school and I know that time is going to fly by, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, one of the things as they start to drive and become more independent that way, I need to bring back at least one day a week. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, Sunday night dinner, something.
Yeah. And we have to figure things out. So like, I'm somebody who does like to be super busy. I do. I like filling my calendar. I like knowing that I've got girlfriend time throughout the week, husband time. I got time running the kids around. I like to study things, add up my certificates. Like, I like to do all that stuff, work, everything. But I have really taken a moment to step back and go, you know what, Michelle? Some days it's okay to not pack it all in.
I love it when I see an empty square on the calendar.
Right?
I love it. I'm like, ooh, what am I going to do? I'm going to spend way too much time in my garden. I'm going to like sit and read a book. Like, just life is moving in hyperspeed.
So fast.
And we were never meant for all this. And clearly, this isn't working for us. I know we've talked about this before, but look at the suicide rates. I'm going off on another thing, but look at the pressure that women and men are under. It's too much.
Yeah.
There's clearly the message is coming through that this isn't working. We can't sustain it. So things have to change.
We're breaking down. And so, but I think that's what goes back to, if we tie it back into what we even started talking about, sometimes we're not even an advocate for ourselves because we are too busy and we feel like we don't have the time, but we can't do that anymore. We have to make that a priority, and we have to get educated ourselves. And I'm not talking about go read some medical books, and, become super knowledgeable about the Mayo Clinic and WebMD. No, like what I'm saying is we got to carve downtime into our lives, and we got to start asking questions to our practitioners. We have to start seeking out additional therapies. So speaking of, oh my gosh, how much fun did we have the other day?
I was just gonna go there too. Okay, so we did a floating sound bath, and it was amazing.
And when we say floating, we were literally on air mattresses in a pool while somebody was guiding us through a meditative journey and playing all kinds of different instruments, including crystal sound bowls, and other drum or something. I don't know. She had like a horn.
There were some weird sounds, but if you think about it, everything was creating a different vibration. And a lot of them were like lower vibrations. And as someone who has struggled with anxiety, magnesium helped me a lot. If anybody else is going through that, I was particularly anxious for some reason, like that week leading up to this sound bath experience. And I will tell you, my anxiety was completely gone for days, maybe a week almost, like probably like 4 or 5 days. No sign of anxiety. It completely recalibrated my nervous system. It was crazy. And I went and bought a couple air mattresses so that I can do it in my own pool.
That's freaking awesome.
So I'm going to experiment with that. I mean, it's not going to be as cool as having someone, actually playing the bowls and the vibration that causes.
Right.
The water, has this impact of the water, even the water inside of your body.
Yeah. It's like the water carries the sound and those vibrations, which, stay tuned because we also have somebody that we interviewed who is a sound bath practitioner, and she's going to kind of break down in more detail what actually happens with those vibrations. So that's a whole nother conversation if you're interested in knowing more.
Yeah, there's so much more to it than you would ever imagine. My mind was kind of blown on that episode. I was like, wait, what?
Like healing. I mean, so many cool things, but yes.
Now I've had an actual experience of feeling healed from something as simple as floating in water, on an air mattress in a pool.
It wasn't a pill. It wasn't a glass of wine. Yeah. It wasn't like all these quick go-to, although this was quick. I mean, it was an immediate feeling that you can actually have at any time. I love that you were like, hey, I'm buying my own air mattresses and maybe putting on my own tunes to this. Mm-hmm. So that's the cool thing is that as you get familiar with these things, you can create stuff at home that is, it goes to the self-healing, goes back to the self-love stuff,
Yeah, I love that Michelle has introduced me to so much of these different techniques and things that were outside of my field of awareness. I think I did do a lot of research, but I was probably a little intimidated to sign up for the class or try the thing. And like, I'm telling you right now, like if you're even a little bit curious about it, just take that initiative and try it. What's the worst that can happen? Like, I wouldn't even have known the healing impact of this. And to be honest, I did want like a glass of wine or something before. I was like, oh, like they're not even going to give us like wine or anything. Wine would be fun. But I didn't need it.
Yeah. It's such a deep, and oh my gosh, like what's the worst thing that can happen? You can sleep really well.
Yeah.
Like, that can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, you can sleep so deeply and just your body just releases stuff that you don't even realize. I mean, it takes you to another place, but these are the modalities that I think are super important when we're talking about alternative therapies. Mm-hmm. It's not just that once a year wellness physical thing that we're doing.
To tell you everything that's wrong with you.
Right, exactly.
Or that you're not going to die. Yeah.
And you feel like shit. And you're like, I don't think I'm 100% well.
Yes,
like
that was what I was always feeling. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're in range, but I feel like shit.
Yeah. Explain that.
And I think a lot of women feel like that.
Totally. So I think bringing in these other things, we already talked about acupuncture. I have a chiropractor who I love, and I used to get really nervous about chiropractic care. So I think also as you're looking for different practitioners out there, just like anything else, maybe talk to friends, find out a little more information. Don't just jump into somebody because you saw them in I was going to say Yellow Pages, but
we don't do that.
Instagram. I don't know. Where are you finding people now? I'm not even really sure, but do a little research. It doesn't have to be a ton. Like ask around.
Reviews.
Reviews.
Yeah. I review.
Sure.
I look at reviews whenever I buy anything. So especially something with my health, if I'm signing up for
right?
it. Yeah.
But there's so many things. There's a functional medicine doctor. I am lucky enough to where my acupuncturist also is a functional medicine
that is very cool.
practitioner. She can run labs for me. She can do all of those kind of tests, which is interesting though, because Greta, I was going to do, it's not called the Dutch test. It's a different one, but it was a saliva-based test.
Yeah.
And the closer I get to 50, because I am 48 right now, creeping on 49, but the closer I get, I couldn't even produce enough saliva to freaking take the damn test throughout the day. I'm like, I would try it and I could not fill that vial because guess what, ladies? That is something else that happens as you age.
And you drink a ton of water and you're not even having coffee in your cup right now. You got some mushroom shit that probably tastes like shit.
Tastes like dirt, but it's got health benefits. I got sea moss in there.
Yeah.
Loading up all the nutrients. I couldn't even get enough freaking saliva. So I will say though, one of my health gurus that I listen to, she feels that you really do need more electrolytes or fulvic acid or things that are like from the earth so that your body can absorb, right? And so
yeah, we need salts.
We do.
Good salt that's full of minerals like Celtic salt or sea salt, because it actually lets your cells absorb the water and hold it.
Yes.
Otherwise, I drink so much water. This was something I was telling my functional medicine practitioner, like, I'm drinking water all day long. She's like, it doesn't matter if you don't have enough sodium.
You're just peeing it out. It's just sort of like going through. Yeah. It's like our cells, the way that they receive liquid, you got to have this molecular structure that goes in a certain way to really like plump the cell up. It's with everything, skincare, all the things. It's all about how everything penetrates the cell. And if we all paid a little more attention in our biology classes,
I know,
we might know that information.
But I also think we're being brainwashed that sodium is bad.
Yeah. Then there's that information too, right?
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want that. But there's different kinds. There's different ways of getting it.
And the cool thing is, since I started doing a little bit more sodium in my water, oh my God, the other day I was at a football game, and you and I have both had LASIK, which we've talked about before. I wish I would have done it in my younger years, because I'm now only really enjoying a couple of years of it, but it's fine. Like, it gave my eyes a break from contacts, which hallelujah. But I was watching the numbers, on the field, and normally I have a hard time sometimes really making it out. And I had drank a lot more of, I don't know, one of these electrolyte packets. Oh my God, I felt like I could totally see clearly.
Because your eyes weren't dried out.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that. I have that dry eye thing too, and always have. And yeah, it's like it really does affect your vision.
It does.
You keep blinking and nothing's really.
And even a drop, it's like you put that in, it starts to go away. And I feel like every time I use drops, it jacks up my eyelashes.
Oh,
it's weird. It's like
I also
really
think
bad.
they're addictive. Like, the more you use them, the more you need. Like, chapstick is the same thing. The more you use it, the more you get addicted to it. It's a weird, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So the little enhancement of salt allowed me to produce more saliva, allowed my eyes to get a little clearer. These are the alternatives. My practitioner did not tell me to do that.
Right.
These were people on the alternative spectrum, I'll call it. I don't know, alternative field that suggested this. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It is amazing. Sometimes you don't even know the questions to ask. I wouldn't even have known that was an issue, sodium.
Right. I know.
I would have thought the opposite.
I know. It's crazy, but super cool.
It is.
So yeah, what else? Like, what else have been some of the things that we maybe have done that have been alternative, or just that we really want, I don't know, put the idea into somebody's mind. Think about doing this.
Yeah. I mean, I think these little extra things that we are doing, they're not crazy expensive to do that floating sound bath, yet it had a tremendous effect on my level of anxiety. I think I felt like that was the first time I have had like zero anxiety for a long time. I don't know where the anxiety came from. I do feel like it's something that I've had. It's increasing with age, and it comes and goes. Like, it gets better and then it comes back. And what a freeing feeling just to get up in the morning. I was on my walk the next day and I was just like, wow, that's what this feels like to have zero
Walking
anxiety.
Is free also,
Yes.
and a great alternative way of receiving health. Yeah, that's amazing that you had that. Okay, so one thing I do want to share is I was in Maui not that long ago, and I went ziplining, and it was phenomenal. But I had two 80-year-old men that were ziplining for the very first time. And I asked them, I'm like, okay, secret to health, like, you're 80 years old. Not only were they ziplining, like, they had no problem walking up the stairs and getting hooked in. Like, you have to like harness yourself in. There's a lot of movement in your body. We were in Jeeps, shaking around, bouncing around. They did ask to be a little closer to the front of the Jeep on the way back, just because it was a lot. Yeah. But, it's all the basic free stuff that we're talking about. It's the gardening. They said that was huge. The constant moving, getting outside and getting the sun. They say that the first, 10 minutes or something, when you open your eyes, it's really important for health to actually receive sunlight.
Sets your circadian rhythm.
Yeah. So those things, I think we kind of like shove off to the side. Right. And sometimes you have to structure your day so that you're like, you know what, how can I get this in? But if you're not feeling well, these are what needs to be priorities.
Yeah. And I think from doing all our podcast episodes, the overall message has just been your body is always speaking to you. And instead of taking a pill, or, I think some of us too, like, I'm like this, like, just move forward. It's fine. You got this. You know, that kind of tough mentality, finding the root of what your body is actually, the message that your body is trying to get out to you. And it could be something like a minor change. And I think all of these examples, like even just not seeing sunlight first thing in the morning and having those blackout shades, it's like these are all ways that we are disconnected from nature and then disconnected from our body. They go hand in hand. You can't be connected to nature and not be connected to your body, I believe. Like there's how? Because the animals, the plants, the breeze, the sunlight, all of it has an effect on our bodies.
Yep.
And so even if that's the small thing that you need to do, I think people can get so overwhelmed. There's so much information out there. And I don't want this episode to be that for people like, oh my God, now I have to do a floating sound bath. What the fuck even is that? Or like we'll have cranial sacral therapy. We have an episode coming up about that, which I didn't know what the fuck that was, but awesome shit. But it's like you can get so overwhelmed with all these things I have to do. Maybe pick something small and let that just kind of propel you forward gradually and watch how you get reconnected again with yourself, with your life.
Yeah.
And
sometimes it's just even opening your mind to the possibility of something else, getting introduced to it and even getting curious about it and going, what is this?
Definitely.
Right? Like just that is already tapping into something that may have been blocked or limited. And so if we can just get to that point where it's like, oh, there is something more.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. That alone. Right.
I'm excited. I think definitely having the guests that we've had on, trying out some of these things, it's definitely piqued my curiosity. And I love that you brought that word up because that's also another one that keeps coming up. Whether you're trying to figure out what you want to do, what your passions are in life, or with your health, like curiosity is so important. And I mean, like now I want to try Reiki. And like, I don't know where that's going to take me, but I know like I've been wanting to for a while, but now it's really coming up a lot in my life and I'm aware of that. Pay attention to what even like piques your interest.
Absolutely.
There's reasons for that.
Yeah. Get curious, listen to your body. We're just going to keep hitting you with these same messages over and over again.
Maybe, you hear something on this podcast and it was like, ooh, I need to know more about that.
Totally. Or it was like, I remember they said something about that last time. And then now here we are expanding on it again. And like Greta was saying, I mean, we've got guests coming in that are just going to blow your mind with all kinds of different modalities that they do that are healing. And again, if any of them, just makes you curious, we'll have links to people and just ways you can get more information so you don't have to go down that black hole of doing your own, and research.
And what I do like that we're doing with this podcast is we are having these guests on and then we're like actually trying the stuff and then talking to you about it. I mean, a lot of the things Michelle already has had exposure to, but I haven't. So,
but you know what? That's
been
part
so
of the fun too.
It's so fun.
Yes, bringing your friends along and asking others, because it's one thing too where you've had some experiences on your own, but then when you really get to dive into them, like what we're doing right now and exploring them and diving in together, it's so much fun. And I feel like it just enhances the healing and the power behind everything that is, because it brings it back to community, which we always talk about is so important, right? And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to bring this, it's community.
Yes. And we have always been those girls that are like,
Totally.
I found this thing out and it worked for me and it was so cool. We're like, oh my God, extensions changed my life. Or whatever. This face cream, this vitamin, this mineral.
Reishi mushroom in my cup.
I love sharing the things that work for me. And they may not work for you, but it's like, try it. I don't know. Maybe it will. Maybe it's life-changing. I mean, I think that is that community aspect that we're all wanting more of. And, I would also just encourage you all to gather up your own little groups of women and share your personal stuff. Don't be ashamed. Don't feel like, I think I had more of that in my early 30s and it's definitely gone now, especially as approaching 50s. But just sharing what's going on medically, physically, we all can help each other out. Let's be each other's sisterhood. Let's be a source of information that, our ancestors used to have that. And we talk about that all the time too, but it's such a loss that we are experiencing in this day and age and in our culture. Let's bring it back. We can do that.
Yeah. And when Greta and I turn 80, we're going to be ziplining together. And we're going to tell you all about it. So just hold on.
Although I already don't really love ziplining. I've done it a couple times, and maybe that's some of my control issues. I'm like, oh, that's pretty, but let's get down now. I don't really love
Maybe
heights.
it's parasailing or just
God.
something really cool. I'm going to bring you along, girl. I'm like, come on, we got this.
Yeah, you're going to keep getting me to try shit that I don't want to do. That's how it's going to go down.
And you'll get me to cook eventually, and we'll be one happy couple.
And garden and slow the fuck down and read
Exactly.
a book. And
Totally. And that's why we have each other.
Yes. That's why you're my girl.
That's
and
right,
you guys
girl.
are our girls. And I hope you do really feel this sense of community and sisterhood when you listen to this podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If you liked what you heard and we're your girls,
Please share and add a review on iTunes so we can continue to grow our circle. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at That's My Girl Podcast.